We are going to be in 2 Corinthians today. 2 Corinthians is such a great book that they gave it a sequel, and you're going to find today that it's even more so than that, which we'll share with you here in just a little bit. Today I'm going to talk to you about my walk with God's will, because last week we talked about, as far as from a general standpoint, talked about how the new Constitution and bylaws and the statement of faith, how it's passed, and we as a church, the things we're going to focus on moving forward. So each week we're going to take this, and the focus that we want to have is we're reaching out to others. We're going to learn it, live it, love others with it. So we're going to say that in 3. Learn it, live it, love others with it. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Learn it, live it, love others with it.
Great. So the live it, the learning it, the loving it, and then loving it, or learning it, living it, and loving others with it. It is the gospel. It is the good news. It is the things that we share with people. Sometimes that means us being a light before them. And so that's where our focus is going to be as we're moving forward. We want to make sure that this is something that we personalize. So last week we looked at it kind of from a general standpoint. This week we're going to take it a little more specific. We're going to tie it to my walk, your walk, my walk with God's will. My walk with God's will. So let's go ahead and say a word of prayer, and then we can dive in. Lord, as we come to you, God, at this time, Lord, this is the question we all want to answer. God, where is it I should be walking? And at the same time, God, wherever it is that I'm walking, am I able to understand and to seek your will? God, is there something in there that for each one of us that we can personalize? God, would you just show us that today? Lord, we all have markers in our lives, and we all have this desire to know you more closely, and not only to know you more closely, but to see as you see. So God, we give it this time, Lord. I just pray that each one of us opens our minds and our hearts to your word. It's your name we pray. Amen. So I was reminded of markers this week because Deanna and I sat down, we were having a discussion with a person who happened to have a computer in front of them, and they were looking up things. And for those of you that don't do this regularly, you should always take a look at your insurance and see, yearly where you're at with your insurance, and make sure all your stuff is right, and your kids are covered, and whatever it might be for home, car. I mean, this seems like we insure everything anymore, but all those different insurance. So we sat down and had a discussion, and part of it was around the car side. And so the question that they asked was, have you had a ticket in the last 3 years? So I'm just going to take a quick poll here. How many of you think that I have had a ticket in the last 3 years? Okay, put your hands down. Bunch of sinners. And how many of you think that Deanna has had a ticket in the last 3 years? You guys think we're a bunch of wild, crazy drivers out there? Actually, no, dude, that was even close. I gotta take a look again. Who raised their hand for me? I feel like we should be in a revival. Okay, put your hands down. And who raised their hands for Deanna? Man, it's like 4-1. She's going to be so excited to know all of this. Oh my goodness. All right, well, guess what? We sat down and they went through, and me being the primary driver, they said, John, you have not had a ticket in the last 3 years. I know, right? And then they said, but there is one ticket on here that was about 1.5 years ago. Not quite 1.5 years ago. And so naturally, I stopped to look at my lovely, wonderful wife, thinking about her lead feet and how she was driving, and then they dove into a little quicker and said, oh, wait, no, it's you. Yep, you've got the ticket. So I'm the one that's had the ticket. But here's the amazing thing. Whenever you go to look at the different insurance stuff, that like jacks your rate up. And so those of you who don't know, I'm just going to share this with you. I know this is going on the internet. I've actually been pulled over in double-digit states. So I meet police officers often. I've met police officers in New Mexico, and in Texas, and in Tennessee, and New Jersey, and Indiana, and Ohio, and Florida, and North Carolina, South Carolina. There's a lot of really nice patrol officer type people out there that are serving. And sometimes they just get lonely. I must look like a person they just want to pull over, and just every once in a while they give me this paper that I get to autograph. And that's happened as well. But I thought that I was 3 years clear. I was not. And because of that, it's affected our insurance moving forward. And so how many times do we have things that we look at our lives and we're like, you know what, I can point back to this time, and it's affected us later. And this was a choice that I made, and it affected me later. This was when I opened up a credit card. And when I opened up that credit card, oh my goodness, $5,000 or $8,000 or $12,000 that I owe later, I go back to that day. For each one of us, we have those moments. So for every year, we have mile markers, we have learning markers, we have life markers that we can point to. And today is one of those days where it's a yearly thing. Today, 1 month from today, kids go back to school. Don't pick that, okay? or at least a couple of parents cheer, not one cheer, okay? So, but a month from today, they go back to school. And a lot of you are sitting there going, wait a second, summer just started. And it did, didn't it? It just started, but then we started doing the rounds. We started doing graduation parties, we started doing baseball tournaments, we started doing weddings, we started doing all these things in which we can mark that year. We have those every single year. The first day of school will be a mile marker. Halloween, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, Christmas, they're all mile markers that we have. But then every once in a while, we also have those markers that we can point back to that aren't necessarily each year. And one of those markers can be a new job. It can be a promotion. It can be, I'm graduating from high school. It could be, I'm graduating from college. It could be starting into a new job. There's so many different things that we have that we don't realize that, oh, you know what, I went to school every single year and now I've been at this job for 25 and 30 and 35 years, and what is going on? But we look at those markers and then we look back and go, and this is what we all say, where did the time go? Well, in one of those markers that we have, it comes to our faith. And we take a look at that marker, we go back and go, I remember the day that I accepted Christ. I remember the day that I was baptized. And then time flies by, and before we know it, boom, there's a new little baby that comes in your lives. Whether it's grandbaby, niece, nephew, my son, that's the little baby over here, is his cousin. And he literally said to his Aunt Nellie today, oh my gosh, when did that happen? Yeah, every family thing, Michelle's been pregnant, every family thing for the last 9 months. But Nathan's always on the food line. And so we miss those markers, don't we? A friend of mine this week, friends of ours, their daughter got engaged. And so they snuck out on a boat and they filmed her, the young man proposing to their daughter. And she said yes, thankfully, because otherwise, well, they were in the weeds, so they could have kept going. But they had this mile marker. And those are markers that we have. They're life markers. But they don't happen all the time. But there are things that we can still look back to. Because just that little baby over there, how old's the baby now, Nellie? How old? 2 weeks. Okay, let me explain this to you everyone so you know. When you have your first child, like you slather them with Purell, you soak them down, you spray everything around and all that kind of stuff when they come in. And so like 3 months into it, you know, you're like, okay, I'll bring the kid to church, and we'll do that. That's what we'll do. When you have your second child, it's like the Lion King. Just grab the kid. There we go. Everyone see it. Here we go. I mean, you just kind of move on. It's amazing the things we have to have them up. But 2 weeks young. And 2 weeks young, and I'm glad you're sitting down, is going to be putting on the school bus. And 2 weeks young is going to be, oh my goodness, they're going to middle school. And they're going to be driving, they're going to graduate. All of these life markers. And we have the same thing that happens to our faith. So here's the deal. If we're going to look at this, how is it then that God has me here today? God has me sitting here today, and we talked about this generally last week, but here we are today, and I want to know how it is that my walk will match His will. I want to know that where I work, that my walk matches His will. I want to know that when I choose the finances, that my walk will match His will. I want to know that with my spouse, with my kids, with my grandkids, that my walk is matching His will. And so the perfect person to use as an example is going to be Paul. And the reason I'm using Paul is because Paul was literally, he would say he is the chief of the sinners. He was the worst of the worst. So if someone was going to be a screw-up, it was Paul. In fact, his previous life, before he was someone that shared the gospel with others, and before he was an apostle, and before he evangelized, he was killing people. He was persecuting people. He was doing whatever he could for the Jewish cause and whatever he could to stop the way that people lived. Because before we were Christians, we were known by the way that we lived. It was an actual movement. And so when we became Christian, it was actually a derogatory term. It was a put-down. But Paul was not known as that Christian the first half of his ministry. And so here we are in Corinthians, and we're going to find out that through Paul that he struggled just like we struggle. But he's got a past that you would think no one could rebound from. He's got a past that there's no way that you can come back from. I killed people. I persecuted people. I jailed people. I hurt people physically. I did whatever I could to put down this cause for people actually believing that they don't have to focus on every single commandment of every single day. Instead, they're supposed to go out and love and care for people. That didn't make sense to people. Because for their entire upbringing, here's the rule. Follow this rule. Here's this tradition. Follow this tradition. This is a ritual. Follow this ritual. And guy after guy after guy put rule after rule after rule before them. And what ended up happening was they started losing focus for what God had in their life. In fact, for each one of them, they're like, wait a second, my walk is really their walk. And God's will, I can't see because I'm following too much what they're doing, and I'm not living enough what God is teaching. Here's another thing you have to understand. At this time, they didn't have a Bible. So they didn't have the same thing that you and I have to where, oh my goodness, I can turn to this love letter at any time and read it and study it and make it part of my everyday walk. So they had to trust in people that were going to share this, and it could be through song, it could be through discussions they had, it could be through repetition, it could be through poems, it could be through stories. They would share this with their family to pass this along. But too many times, the 10 Commandments, which were actually over 600 commandments, got in the way. And so here's Paul. He's having this discussion, and understand something here. This letter that he is going to write today is a very personal letter. If you want to understand Paul better, the 2 Corinthians is the letter to go and find, because he's very personal in this letter that he writes. We're going to go right from the beginning in chapter 1, verse 1. Verse 8 says, Paul, an apostle of Christ Jesus by the will of God, and Timothy our brother. So this is who he's writing. He is literally writing this. So that what you need to understand is that we see these as books in the Bible. Paul was writing this as a letter. That was the way that people could talk at this time. So Paul didn't know he was writing the Bible. There was no one that came by and said, hey, Paul, listen, we're going to put all these publications together. We're going to put them in one big book, and we're going to hand them out to everybody. And Paul's like, okay, that's great. Yeah, you've got 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians. And then if you go to Galatia next, if you go to Ephesus, you could maybe go around to some other places, write a few letters, we're going to put them all in this one big volume. None of the writers knew that they were doing that. So Paul is a missionary, and this is on his second missionary journey, and he's writing to this church in Corinth. And he's alongside of a brother, as Timothy, so he's not alone. Timothy, some people see as the first youth pastor. He's just a younger guy that he has put his arms around and said, I'm going to help you grow. And if you notice, the first thing he talks about is him being an apostle. And this is a different term than what has been used to so far for all of the other things that have been shared. Because we've focused upon disciples, but now he's a disciple that has become an apostle. All that means is he's being sent out. The apostle sends out, and he goes out and he shares the message. And so many times we get stuck in the discipleship that we don't understand that a change has to take place that sends us out to be that messenger. So he says, to the church of God in Corinth, together with all the saints throughout, and this is one of those tough ones to pronounce, Achaia. Okay, now this city is in Greece, and it's one of the main ports that Rome is using. It's actually the capital city of the Grecian side of the Roman Empire. The reason it's so important is because ships could get in and ships could get out. And it's actually right across the sea from Ephesus. So when you read the book of Ephesians, that's Ephesus. This is Achaia, and this is in Corinth. So this is why this book comes about. And he says this first: grace and peace. Grace and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. So if we take this portion out, Paul's an apostle. He's sent out to share. And he is seeking God's will. And he's doing so through grace and peace. Grace, God's riches at Christ's expense. And peace, which Jesus shared, that this peace I will leave for each one of you. But so many times in our lives, we have the lack of peace. And because we don't have that peace, we don't seek God first. Think about an area right now in your life that's like it's in constant turmoil. It could be your relationship with your spouse. It could be, oh my goodness, I don't want to go to the mailbox. I'm afraid to see what bill's coming this week. It could be, I feel like time is just passing by. It could be, I don't know what the next step is in my business. I don't know if I should take the job. I don't know if I should move. I don't know if I should stay. And so there's this constant turmoil. Whenever we have that turmoil, we focus upon that turmoil, we lose God's peace. And yet Jesus said, if you'll just trust and believe, this peace that I bring, I offer, and I give to you freely. He says that in John 14. He shares with each one of us. So our role is literally to trust and believe. So when that turmoil rises, because it's going to rise, and when that situation pops up, and it's going to pop up, Do we immediately get angry? Do we immediately get anxious? Do we immediately, oh my goodness, what am I going to do next? Or do we stop long enough to say, you know what, God, this is that moment that you talked about. And for me, I want my walk to match your will. And so I'm going to give you this moment. I'm going to give you this struggle. I'm going to give you where it is that I worry. I'm going to give you where it is that I doubt. What the next step might be. When I'm not listening. When I get angry. All of those things that each one of us go through every single day. When I'm complacent. When I procrastinate. When I ask the question, what if? When I ask the question, why me? And stop long enough so that I can turn and say, God, you know what? You promised me your peace. And I want to find your will in my life. I want my walk to match your will. And so the first thing that Paul is sharing with this church is he's sharing with each one of them, listen, this is God's will for me to be writing this to you, and I'm going to do it through grace and peace. That's a great offering to have. Compared to all those other things we just talked about, I'll take the grace and the peace. I need that grace and that peace. I need it as a husband, as a dad, as a coach. I need it as a friend. I need it as someone who doesn't have friends. I need to know that that grace and peace is there for me personally. Because when I can focus upon those things, I'm focusing on the things from God. Paul continues in verse 3. He says this, the God of all comfort. He says, praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. So he stops now and he says this, I'm going to recognize God for who God is. And so I stop and I ask you, how big is your God? For that struggle that you're going through, where you can't make the transitions that your walk, married, or matches God's will, how big is your God? Or is God someone that you pull out in that time of need? All right, God, I need you now, so I'm going to pray to you. Okay, good. I'll be back later today and we'll talk. Even though the Bible says praying without ceasing, which means just to recognize God throughout that day. We come home and the house is in turmoil and everyone's freaking out in 50 different directions. Do we add to all that? Or do we stop enough and say, okay, God, just help me bring some peace to this moment. Help me bring your peace to this moment. And what I just did there is the same thing that Paul just did in his letter. He stopped long enough to recognize God for who God is, believing that God is big enough to handle everything in this world, but also loving enough to handle it for you and for me, personally. See, that's a belief. And that's part of that grace, and that's part of that peace that he offers us so freely. He continues and he says, and the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort. We'll stop here for a second. Compassion and comfort. Do we think about God offering that for each one of us? In the struggles, in the day-to-day minutiae, in the big things that are going on in the world, in the complaints about our president, the complaints about overseas, and the rumors of wars, and in all of the natural disasters. Do we understand that God has compassion in those moments? Because many times what we do is we blame God for them. And if we go back to the beginning of time, what we're going to find is that, guess what? God set that all up for every one of us to be this perfect place in which we live. And yet there was a snake that came in that caused all the turmoil. And it's been passed on ever since. See, we don't blame who we should be blaming. Because what happens is our God becomes smaller because we think, oh, he cares more about that person and those people and the ones that don't believe and the ones that are getting ahead. And we don't recognize that all of those people that may not even be believers or be so far away from God, they're so tied up in that stuff and their things that they can't even see God. They don't need God. So maybe he's holding those things back for us enough so that we can recognize God and see God through these difficult moments. But he offers you compassion. And he offers you comfort. So if I am going to have my walk match God's will, the first thing is I have to be willing to have compassion on others. Too many times we get caught in the complaining. And other people hear about that complaining. And it becomes gossip and pointing fingers and all those things that take place. Paul was smart enough to understand that there were snakes, just like there was in the garden. He was smart enough to understand that there were wolves in sheep clothing. He understood that. It happens everywhere that you go. We talked about last week how the devil's focus is to infiltrate the church and to come from inside out. Because when he persecuted the church, it grew. And now that he's going from the inside out, the church is really struggling. So if we're going to find our walk and to match God's will, we have to live with compassion. Still recognizing their struggles, but having that compassion. He says, for just as the sufferings of Christ flow over into our lives, so also through Christ our comfort overflows. So he goes back to that compassion side, but he also talks about sufferings. So if we sat down and said, okay, here's what I want you to do. We've got this forest thing up here. We're going to have this little campfire. And I want you guys to take all of your sufferings. And I want you to take a communication card. And on the back, we're going to take just 3 minutes. And I want you to write down every suffering that you have. And some of you are like, well, I don't really have any sufferings. Just start writing. After 3 minutes, some of you might have 1 and 2. Some of you will find that as you have 1 and 2, it turns into 3 and 10 and 15. Next thing you know, you're like, hey, can I use another piece of paper? And we keep filling up those sufferings. But then at the end of it, you get to come and drop that into the fire to let it go. So many times we get stuck in those sufferings. We put it back in our pocket and we lift it back out as a reminder. But God has enough compassion on us to say, those sufferings I can turn into comfort. Let's look at Paul here for a second. If you go to Acts 28 and you read about Paul, Paul's actually in a shipwreck. 270 people were shipwrecked. And once the ship is turned over, because the ship had to be turned over, everyone's going to be dead. Everyone is going to be dead. They're heading up. He's about to go to prison. He's about to head into Rome. He's going to be going because he's a Roman citizen. He's going to go before the great big emperor guy, and he's going to plead his case. But the ship gets turned over. And so they end up on this island of Malta. Everyone survived this boat crash that everyone should have died in. And the people of that island see these guys coming up. And they don't know them, but they were in a boat. And they know that they have to be prisoners because there's also guards that are there that are trying to bring all these guys together. And so as they get there, all these officers start to make fires on the beaches so they can keep these people warm, and then we got to figure it out. We got to get another boat, get them over to Rome. So what does Paul do? He doesn't start a prayer circle. He doesn't have a church service. He doesn't find a guitar so they can do worship. He doesn't do those things. He sees all these guys working that are putting these fires together, and he says, I'm going to help. So he just dives in because that's what a missionary does. So they go start making these fires. And as he's doing it, he lifts up some wood to go to put on a fire, and a viper jumps out and bites him in the hand. So now here's Paul, and he's got this snake stuck to his hand. And the people that are on the island have seen this. And so as he's standing there with this snake that's on his hand, they're like, yeah, he's going to puff up and die here shortly. Because that's like one of the poisonous vipers that are on this island that everyone should be afraid of. Everyone should be freaked out if you've never been on a mission trip where in a hot area, those are things you have to watch for. Spiders and snakes. Spiders and snakes. Snakes and spiders. I warn you everywhere you go. Because they're in those little hidden areas. Paul didn't care about that. He cared about the people, and he cared about getting them warm. He cared about their comfort. And he did so by showing them compassion. And so now he's got this poisonous snake hanging off his hand, and all the people see it, and they're like, yes, he's going to puff up and die here shortly. So you know what Paul does? He goes over to the fire, and he shakes the viper off, and it drops into the fire. And the viper dies. Pretty cool, huh? And everyone's just looking at him, waiting for it to puff up and die. But that doesn't happen. And so now these people on this island look at him, and they went from, he must be a murderer, they said. Because if he survived the boat crash, now this viper's biting him, God really must want him. God's really judging him. He really must have done something wrong. He's got to be the biggest screw-up ever, which is what we do to ourselves. And so many times we've got this viper that is hanging from our hand, and this poison that is entering our body, and it's starting to flow into our very fibers of who we are, and we're like, man, no one's going to talk to me. I mean, think about this for a second. If I came walking up to you and I had a snake hanging off my hand and you knew it was poisonous, would you talk to me? Well, I should have brought a big rubber snake with like a king cobra to hang on. Hey man, how you doing? He's like, whoa, 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 good talk, right? Well, come give me a hug. No one's going to hug you with a poisonous snake hanging off your hand, right? Who wants to try it? For VBS, with all the little kids. No, we don't want to do that. Well, maybe a couple of them. But we don't want to do that. He was dead before them. This is a dead man walking, and he shakes it off. Why? Because he wanted his walk to match God's will. He was okay with the snake biting him. It's just a snake. God can handle it. No. It's the most poisonous of snakes. You're going to puff up and die. God's got it. God's got it. So now these people look at him, and all of a sudden, he has turned from a murderer and a bad guy and the chief of the sinners, which is what he calls himself, and now they're like, he must be a god. How does that happen? He did one kind act, and all of a sudden he's elevated to God status, because that is how the Roman people were. They had gods of war, they had gods of fertility, they had God of this, God of that, you name it, they had all these different gods. And oh my goodness, before us is this one God right before us. And many times we elevate people to that status. It could be the role they're in, it could be the boss, it could be the church, it could be, you name it. Many people criticize the Catholic Church because they feel like they made the Pope kind of God. And yet the head guy of the church for many years was like, hey, let's focus upon the faith. Paul lived his faith before others. He wasn't afraid of a little old snake. He just wanted to bring comfort to other people in their lives. The story continues. Paul, who literally has no fear, and now has become a god before all these people, who knows that his next role is to go before the emperor, who understands that he is walking, floating, sitting around a fire for his death. He is someone who understands that he has sufferings. He says, in verse 6, if we are distressed, it is for your comfort and your salvation. So if we have distress, it is for our comfort and our salvation. See, that's focusing on God. The distress you have in your life right now, the loneliness you have, the doubt that you have, the times of the day where you're talking and you may, I can't believe those things just came out of my mouth. I can't believe the things I'm putting in my ear. I can't believe the things that I'm watching. And I don't think God would want me to watch or see any of these things. And yet Paul is sharing with each one of us that we can turn all of those into God's comfort, where our walk matches His will. And Paul's priority was this: listen, I know I'm floating to my death, but while I'm still here, and while I'm still kicking, and while I'm still walking, and while we're still together, and while my kids are at home, and when I have time with them, and when I get to meet others, and when I run into somebody at Dairy Queen or McDonald's or in a grocery store, whatever it might be, I have an opportunity to bring comfort. And when I do, when I have compassion, not only on the masses, but on people individually, I'm starting to walk in God's will. When I do it for Him. Paul chose to have compassion on others. He wasn't going to let some little snake stop him in his walk. But he had compassion on others combined with his confidence that God was in control. Think about this for a second. Listen, he knows he's floating to his death. There's a shipwreck. He doesn't say, let's take over the island. Look, the guard's out there, we can whack him on the head with some of these pieces, these planks from the ship. He doesn't do that. He already knows that he's walking to that death. He is sure of it, because that is what awaits him. But he's going to get everyone together and he's going to say, listen, we're all going to have those sufferings. And we're going to start by showing compassion to others. And that compassion, combined with the confidence that God is in control, changes everything. It's an absolute game changer. Are there snakes amongst them? Absolutely. Do they want to inject their poison in? Absolutely. Do you need to shake those off and drop them in the fire? Absolutely. Because there's snakes out there for every one of us. And you know what that snake is. You know it's eating you up inside. And you also know that whatever that is, whether it's a person, whether it's a feeling, whether it's an everyday occurrence, whether it's the next marker or the next life marker that is keeping you from your walk with God, it's something that's keeping you from showing others compassion with the confidence that God is in control. Paul continues and he says this: If we are distressed, it is for our comfort and salvation. If we are comforted, it is also for your comfort, which produces in you patient endurance of the same sufferings we suffer. We're all in this together. We all have sufferings. We all suffer at times. And our hope for you is firm because we know that just as you share in our sufferings, so also you share in our comfort. When's the last time we shared in that comfort? If you're like, man, I want to help in an area, I want to be a part of something, I want to do something. Guy that Dan and I met this week, he was sharing with me, he goes, man, I'm single. And I've been single for too long now, and I'd really like to meet someone. Okay, where are you going out to meet people? Nowhere. Oh, okay, so what do you do at night? I go home and I go to bed, but sometimes I golf with my buddies. Do you golf with females? No. Okay, so you're in a place where you put yourself where you can meet people? No. He goes, I don't know where to meet people. So I said, well, I have a great idea. He's like, what's that? I go to church. He's like, what? And I've known this guy, by the way, since I was like 19 years old. I said, go to church. I said, in fact, I'm a preacher. And after he fell over on the ground, because of my past and things that I did, okay, I worked on my CPR, got him back to life. You say preacher, boom, right back out. Got him up. He was like, I just don't know if I can do that. And so here's the amazing thing. I'm saying to him, come to church and meet people. Get to church where you get to know people. And you don't know it. Maybe you need to fix whatever is going on with you through God. Maybe you need to have that choice of having compassion on others so you can see God's will in your life. And then, and only then, may you find that special someone. But you got to be able to put yourself out there and put yourself in an area that if God is important, that you're going to live that before others. And that's part of why we come together. And he stopped. He thought about it for a long time. Kind of looked up. Then he looked at Deanna and he goes, so do you have any friends maybe that you could introduce me to? Or isn't that our way? The central verse of the Bible. It says to put our trust in the Lord and not our confidence in man. And so I'm offering him, listen, we have a great church family. We have wonderful people. We have prayer teams. We have kind people. We have missions, we have ministries, we've got VBS, we've got all these things that are going on. The ladies are having a retreat coming up, the guys are getting back together, there's Bible studies, all these fantastic things that are going on. And what's he do? He stops there for a second, he's like, yeah, man, that really seems difficult. But still, we showed him compassion to seek God's will for his life. But he has to take that first step. And yet for him, this is our world, he was so willing to put his confidence in Deanna maybe having a single friend. He's lonely. He's discouraged. He doubts. He's frustrated. He's angry. He looks back to his past. He thinks God's not really interested. He sometimes thinks God might be asleep at the wheel. He thinks there's no way that God is that interested in him. And because of that, he doesn't get an opportunity to share and show God's compassion on others. And then through that, to see God's will because he's confident that God will show up. Where is it in your life today that God needs you to take and stop for a moment and say, I got to put the complaining away. I got to put the gospel away. I got to put the struggles away. I got to put the addiction away. I got to put the inner turmoil away. And I got to start showing compassion on others. We're going to have suffering? Sure. Is there going to be comfort? Absolutely. At the end of the day, the chief of all sinners shared that comfort with others. The chief of all sinners said, I'm an apostle. I was a disciple, and then I was sent out. The chief of all sinners, Paul, says that I'm going to have sufferings, but in it I can find God's comfort. And when I find God's comfort in it, I realize that God has had compassion on me. And I was confident enough to say, oh my goodness, God had compassion on little old me. Because I stopped long enough to recognize it. builds our confidence. What does that look like in the world? Imagine for a moment, right where you sit, if you started every day and went through every single day with the eyes of compassion and the confidence to know that God is there with you in those moments. And when those two things collide, it's amazing the things that God can do, if you allow. Everyone take your hands and go like this. Okay? Knock yourself over. All right, here we go. All right, get the blood flowing, right? We're going to start away here a little bit. I'm just kidding. Okay, I want you to take your hands like this. I've done this with some of you guys before, all right? And I want you to go like this and fold your hands. And just hold there a little bit. All right, this is the praying pose. Or if you're a ninja, it's up. I made that up. I'm not really a ninja. Okay? I wish I was a ninja. That sword. Okay, here we go. All right? Everyone take it now. I want you to take your hands, and I want you to take them, and so if your thumb's on this side, I want you to take it, and I want you to go like this the other way. Go, do it. Okay, now do it back, go back. Oh, peace, right? Right? Okay, now go back to the other thing. Turn one. You go back here. Oh, peace, peace, peace. Listen, we know where we can seek peace. We know the areas that we can find peace. There's those little things that eat at us, that get at us every single day. And when those happen, too many times we shake it off, we do this, like, and we go back to our thing. Instead of going, you know what? All right, God, you got me here for a little bit. I'm going to stop long enough, because these hands are praying hands. I'm going to say, God, take whatever this little feeling is away. Help me to have compassion on others, and help me to be confident enough to know that you are there with me. And that's the lesson that Paul shares with us. And that's the lesson we can take with us today and to take out as an apostle to others. Just right where you sit, if you close your eyes and just bow your heads for a little bit. As the praise team comes up, we've talked about these two essential things, these two non-negotiables for those that desire to be used by God. That want to get closer to God. You would not be here with me today. I would not be here with you today if I didn't want to know that God was present and doing something cool in my life. That God can do something cool in my life. That God can help me to show compassion. For some of us, we're still focused on that snake hanging off the hand. We're going to have to shake those snakes at times, drop them in the fire. We all have to. If it's hurting your family, if it's hurting your relationship, if it's hurting your workplace, if it's hurting your school, if it's hurting your team, if it's hurting your church family, sometimes you have to shake those things off. With the hope of getting back to people that focus on that compassion type of God's will. So as Mike is just going to play it for a couple minutes, I want you to focus on those two things colliding in your world. Me or you showing compassion upon others, putting all that other stuff away, forsaking it all, showing compassion upon others. And then as we have that compassion upon others, knowing, believing, trusting, through grace and through peace, through confidence that God is in the center of that. Being confident that God is in control. We'll have you stand here in just a couple minutes. I just want you to take a few minutes, just you personally, so you can talk to God about these things.